Welcome to the After Church Show with Greg and friends. I am your host, GB, and you are tuned in live to WXSL Street Legal Radio, www.streetlegalradio.com, located in Baltimore, Maryland. Got my partner in here with me today, my little brother from another mother, Brother Massey. What's going on, Massey?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, you know how it is. You know
Yes,
what
sir.
time it is. It's time to get this thing done. It's time to talk. It's time to have some fun. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Big shout out to Kai Nicole. We know you're listening in, baby girl, so we appreciate you. Miss you. We know that you listened, so big shout out to you. Appreciate you for sure. For those of you who don't know, Kai Nicole's going to be on a little hiatus for a little while because of other obligations that she has, but she is certainly with us in spirit. So we appreciate her even when she's not here on the air with us. But let's get it cracking, man. We got a lot to talk about today. A couple of things happened over the week that we need to get out in the air and speak about a few things. So this should be a fun broadcast for sure. If you want to follow us, just so you are aware, we're definitely live on the radio. But if you want to take a peek inside the studio and you want to see us and you want to vibe with us that way, you're certainly welcome to do so. You can go onto Ustream and look for Street Legal Radio, and you'll find us there. You can also go to our Periscope feed, and we're live on Periscope as well. Just look for the After Church Show, and you will find us there. So you can look in the studio, or you can listen to us online or on your phone. It doesn't matter how. Just get with us. Pass the word. Tell your mama, tell your friends that we're live. So it's time to hit it. Tell your mama and her friends that it's time to hit it. Time to go. So on a serious note, though, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things from the top. We want to pray for a couple of groups of people. Obviously, prayer in general is good at all times, Chris, but we do want to put some special attention on there. Some people in California, about 80,000 people who've been forced to flee from their homes and evacuate their homes because of brush fires have kind of gotten out of control. So our prayers are with them at this time. It's about 31 acres have been burned so far, man, and about 34,000 homes have been evacuated. So that's a lot of people to have to be displaced. So we certainly want to pray for them. And also our hearts and prayers go out to the flood victims down in Louisiana. It's about 40,000 homes that were damaged during that flood. From what I read and saw on TV, man, it was like 4 feet of water in like a 13-mile radius. So just imagine a 13-mile wide, long pool of 4 feet of water. So that's a lot of damage that's going to need to be repaired. A lot of people that need to recover. So they're saying it's like the worst water damage since Hurricane Sandy. So we certainly want to keep all those people uplifted in prayer. Anytime there's major tragedies, we want to make sure that we are praying for those people. And if you can support them, there's various different ways to get in contact with organizations where you can support them, whether it's through money or if you want to volunteer and go out and help. But there's plenty of ways to get in contact with those people that are going through that plight. So we just want to keep them in our prayers at this time. Well, the Olympics were wrapping up this week. You know,
today was actually the last day.
Yeah, so everything kind of wrapped up. A couple of things that I noticed. I don't know if you noticed them, bro, but
y'all noticed.
a couple of things that I wanted to put on the plate for discussion. One thing in particular, though, I wanted to kind of just acknowledge, just as a believer and a Christian man, a lot of the athletes, but specifically the female athletes, were giving mad shouts out to God, man, just thanking God for their abilities, thanking God for their talents, and really happy to be there. I mean, in particularly the 4x100 women's team.
Right.
They actually gave a lot of praise to God. That's Allison Felix, English Garner, Tiana Bortoletta, I believe is how you say her name, and so the last one. But yeah, man, just gave praise, and that was just, for me, I was very happy to hear that and to see that happen. People just giving unadulterated praise for what they did. You noticed, and you brought up when we were talking, that you noticed that when they did a lot of the rebroadcast, though, of the interviews that they had with the people who were doing this, that a lot of times they cut it out. So you saw that, right?
Yeah, I noticed it with Allison Felix. And I just saw another one with Brittany Rollins, where she was specifically talking about, using her platform to.
She's the hurdler, right? I think she's the hurdler. Yeah.
Rollins, yeah.
Brianna is how you say it.
Brianna.
She says it differently.
Oh, I keep calling her Brittany.
Yeah,
Brianna Rollins.
It's Brianna Rollins, Nia Ali, and Christy Caslick.
Right.
Yeah.
And but they've been thanking God, and then when they do the recast, or when they show, the highlights, and they do the interviews, they're taking it out. The media's taking it out, and that's just sad, because you have you're representing not only your country, but you're representing your family, you're representing your church.
Absolutely.
Just not your country, and for God to be so big in their lives, it's just not fair. That's just another way the media try to control everything. But God still got the glory from them winning them gold medals.
Indeed. So, but here's the irony, and the irony that I picked up on it, and I always like to point this out to people who are, atheists in their beliefs, so they want to say that God's in the sofa and He's in the trees and God is everywhere. It's like, shut up. That's just
right.
Go ahead with that.
Right.
But the irony of it all is, on our money it says, "In God we trust." But as soon as we get on the air and we talk about this God that we trust in, then there's a problem.
Right.
Everybody wants to they want to pull that out. So
of course.
I thought that was ignorant is the word that if I had to put a word in there, I thought it was ignorant to delete that, because I did, after you pointed that out, I did notice on a couple of the subsequent broadcasts of the interviews from these athletes, they removed that whole piece.
Right.
And it's hard to remove that piece because they up there breathing heavy.
Right. Then ran. Right.
What are they going for? Then they take that whole thing out, and it's like, come on, man, that wasn't cool. But the speaking of the hurdlers, the 100-meter hurdlers, Brianna, Nia, and Christy, they won gold, silver, and bronze.
I know. I watched it happen.
That was awesome,
and
right?
It was great.
Yeah.
I love to see that. I mean, it's a great thing when your country wins, but then to win first, second, and third.
Yo, that's sweeping. We swept.
Right,
we swept this category.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, my wife and I, we went out Saturday night, and we were watching it when we were having dinner, and it was hard for me. I'm switched to the men now, but it was hard for me not to cheer for Usain Bolt. Even though I'm American, I was like, all right, but I wanted to see him win, but we were cracking up because the Jamaican team was so big as compared to our guys. It was like watching the Smurfs run against Gargoyle. Right. It was really funny.
I mean, you gotta. This is his last Olympics. I mean, what he's been able to do to tie Carl Lewis with 9 golds. That's a huge thing. First of all, there's a lot of people that don't even get through one Olympics. They do the one, and either they don't qualify or they just like, I ain't doing this no more.
Yeah.
But to make it through 3 Olympics, and Americans got to kind of put it on a scale. You look at the medal count; we're at like 160 something.
Yeah, we dominate the world.
Right. So we had like 140 something like that. Yeah. Jamaica, I looked at it last night. It could have changed. Jamaica has 9 medals,
and they his.
And most of them are right.
Yeah.
And they have like 6 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze, or something like that. So I'm gonna celebrate for them.
Yeah.
And you saying, but what he's able to do, we were talking about it in our meeting. It was like, if you watch him run, it's not even. He's lengthy.
It's ridiculous. He is 6. He's either 6'5" or 6'6". So the broadcaster, they were pointing out that when he runs, he only has to take like 41 steps. Everybody else has to take 44, 45.
Right.
So I'm not surprised that he's kicking their butts because he got to take less steps.
That last race wasn't even close.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
It was like, just give him the medal.
But we did get. I think we got silver in that. So we came in second, which is fine. I'll take that. Proud of our guys. So, but before we leave off the Olympics, though, there was one more Olympian that I kind of wanted to talk about. This guy, we'll call him a guy who has a lot of privilege, and
we'll call him Lion Rockty.
Yeah, Lion.
I knew he was going like that.
yeah. Lion Lochte. I like that.
Lion Lochte. We won't use his real name, but we'll give him an alias.
Sounds like.
Go ahead. Sounds like, right?
So Mr. Lochte decided that in children, if you got kids, put your kids up to the speaker, because we need to let the kids learn the lesson that this 31-year-old man couldn't seem to learn. But basically, for those who've been under a rock and haven't been watching, Lion Rock, man, the dude's name is Ryan.
Right.
Ryan Lochte. Ryan Lochte.
Right.
Decided that him and his boys would go out to celebrate. Nothing wrong with that. They went out to local club in Brazil. They drank a little too much, obviously. They came back, and on the way back from them partying, headed back to the Olympic Village, they decided that they want to go to, a gas station. They stopped at a gas station on the side of the road. Now, this is where it becomes interesting, because there are two stories that are in place now. First, there's the lie. The lie was, he said that they were held up at gunpoint, and they were robbed of their money. When they got back to Olympic Village, they were all despondent, and they couldn't believe it. This dude went on the Today Show, Matt Lauer. He went on other local news broadcasts and told this grandiferous story about how the Brazilian people took advantage of him, the poor little American, blah blah blah. Him and his buddies. So lo and behold, and this is where the kids need to come close to the speaker, because the truth will always bubble up to the top, kids. Trust me. And this is to some of the adults too, because we got some lying adults in this world too. Yeah. So, but matter of fact, all the liars pull in real close.
Turn the volume up.
Turn the volume up just a little bit. If you like to lie, listen to this. So, he told this grandiferous story about how they were robbed at gunpoint, etc. Turns out that the gas station, like most gas stations, have closed caption TV, and they recorded the whole ordeal. Truth of the matter is that Mr. Lochte and his boys decided to vandalize. We won't say exactly what they did, but they went in and they vandalized the bathroom. They were very rude, disrespectful, etc., to the point where the police had to be called to the location. The police then detained them, didn't arrest them, but they did detain them, had them sit on the curb and question them, etc. And then they wound up giving their money to the shop owner to resolve everything so that no further issue had to be made from this.
Right.
That's the truth. So for those who like to lie, the reason why we're talking about this is, if you're a liar and you like to fabricate, and the word embellish was used, which I found to be very funny. If you like to embellish stories, you're going to get caught eventually.
Yep.
The truth has the light shining on it, and there's no space for anything other than that. You're going to get caught eventually. And what happened was, when this video came out, you got now the whole entire United States of America embarrassed by what this guy did. Man, how do you feel about that?
It's just a sad thing. Yeah, because now, and so I read a report that someone said that he's the type of person that the world associates with America, when it's like, you guys are privileged, you guys just don't care. It's like, how are you going to go to another country, blame their countrymen?
Right. Innocent countrymen.
And then try to give this sad sob story. That's another problem I have with the media. It's like, boys will be boys. It's like, y'all just...
he's 31,
right.
and everybody around him was within 3 years, so they're not frat boys, as they call them, and they're not boys, period. They're grown men.
They're grown men, and he knew better. He did something, he got caught. He shouldn't have lied, but if he lied, first of all, he shouldn't have lied. I'm not even going to go into the then if he did, but he shouldn't have lied, because it's an embarrassment.
Yeah.
To be on that level, that stage, and then just make something up like, yeah, you got robbed. Because then you don't know what could have happened after that. They could have been looking, they could have locked innocent people up.
Sure.
All because you want to lie about, you going out. I think he just wanted attention. I think because, this is my personal opinion. I think because Michael Phelps still getting the attention that Michael Phelps is getting. I think
he couldn't stand him.
This is my second Olympics, and y'all still talking about Phelps. I'm here too.
Hey man,
I do.
if you silver, you silver.
Right.
Just be the best. Be the best silver you can be. That's what it is.
Look at yourself in the mirror and say, "I'm the best.
I'm
silver
the best silver medalist that there ever was." That's what
ain't nothing wrong with being a silver. It's a lot of people that don't even get a
right.
West Virginia, so get a medal. So, but yeah, it's an embarrassment, and the biggest embarrassment is, you know, the way that the media, you know, they ostracized Gabby Douglas for not putting her hand on her heart. I don't blame her.
It's plenty of people that have done that.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's an article that shows lots of people just standing there, and
Trump did it.
He just did it, really. And I don't look at it as a problem because I've gone to, I think the last baseball game we went to, I was just standing there and I didn't have my hand over my heart. I mean, I was listening to the Pledge of Allegiance or the whatever it's called, what's it called, anthem.
Yeah, national
anthem. I was listening to it. I wasn't speaking or talking, but I didn't have my hand over my chest. Am I not a patriot now? Am I betraying my country?
Putting your hand over your chest has nothing to do. My allegiance is to God.
Amen, brother.
It's to God. God put us all here, whether you want to believe it or not. This is our platform, and that's what we speak in.
There you go. That's it.
So God, that's who I pledge to. So
yeah.
For them to like ostracize Gabby Douglas, and then you have the two guys. What's that shot put where they put the thing on their neck? I forgot.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
That's called a shot put.
Yeah, the shot put. Those two guys, they won gold and silver, and was standing there,
just standing there
at their ceremony.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you this one thing, if while it's playing you take a seat, or you just sit down, or you turn around, or you're not being respectful, but just to stand there, man. Maybe their arms were tied, and it's just that simple.
Hey, we're gonna go with that.
We'll go with that.
Gabby did a whole bunch of flips. Her arms were tied.
Her arms were tied.
That's where we go. Shout out to Gabby and all, Simone Biles and all that.
Of course,
y'all did an excellent job.
Excellent job. And then our U.S. basketball female basketball team, they got gold as well.
Yeah.
So it was really a good week, man. I actually enjoy the Olympics. I'm one of those people that when they come on, I watch it. I'm into it. You know, I was watching, and this shows you how far in I am. I was literally watching like table tennis, ping pong. That's all it is. I was watching ping pong, taekwondo. Right. I mean, I was watching rowing because these are sports that you never get to see them.
Yeah.
You know, they never show you these sports any other time, and apparently they're very popular in the world, but we don't get to see them. You know, when the last time you saw a steeplechase or a shot put? You know what I mean? So it was fun to watch, man.
Even fencing. I mean, fencing has been around for the longest time.
Yeah,
and it's like fencing is just uninteresting.
I think a Muslim, she competed. And she won either bronze or silver, but
she won bronze.
She had her hijab on, and I think that's cool. You know, to represent the country, to show a little diversity. Yeah. They let her compete, and she was able to compete. So you know, I don't know her name offhand, but you know, hats off to her for accomplishing that. And you're right, man. Fencing. When the last time you watched fencing other than last week?
4 years ago.
Right. But man, let me run home and watch this fencing championship. Let me get home so I can see fencing.
I want to know who's the LeBron of fencing right now. Who is that person?
Too much, man. That is too much. Look, so we're going to go into our first break. When we come back, we got some hot topics that we want to go over, but we appreciate you guys riding with us. You're tuned in to WXSL Street Legal Radio, www.streetlegalradio.com. This is the After Church Show with Greg and friends. I am GB, your host and producer, and that is Brother Massey over there. Special shout out to our engineer who's always with us doing her thing. She doesn't have donuts this week, so she's a little calmer this week, but she has iced coffee, so you might hear some scratching or mixing going on in the background. If so, that would be Sade, but shout out to Sade. Thanks for doing your thing. We'll be right back in a few. Stay locked to WXSL. We got a couple things that we want to go over. We got a couple topics that we wanted to get into. Chris, there's a couple articles that we were reading, some things that we found to be very interesting. Let's start with the first article we found on Spelman College. Let's go to Spelman College. So Spelman College, just for those of you who are not familiar, one of the most famous historical black colleges and universities in existence. You know, you probably know somebody that went there, somebody famous, or you may have known someone yourself, or you could be a graduate yourself. But Spelman College is in the news because they are actually considering now admitting transgender women to the college and university. According to an article on theroot.com, the president, Mary Schmidt Campbell, has announced that a task force will be convened to make recommendations on the inclusion of transgender students. So this is an interesting topic just because of the fact that this is a, not only is it a historical black college, but it's also historically a single-sex college, which is one of the major draws for the college itself. This is going to change things. And my research into this topic and looking into this topic, there's actually a couple of colleges that are already doing this across the United States where they've made the change to the application process. So there's several single-sex colleges who've made adjustments to their admissions policies to accommodate the transgender applicants. So the question then becomes, what is it that we feel on this in particular change that they're making? Outside of the fact, obviously, that there's the issue with people getting surgeries and stuff like that. That's one thing, but put yourself in a position of someone who either already goes there or was looking to go there because of the fact that this was a single-sex college, and some people want that type of atmosphere and they want that type of environment, no differently than they have all-male colleges as well. So that opens the question: how do we respond to such a large university making a very, what I consider to be, historic adjustment to their application process? What do you feel is that?
I think, I'm looking at the situation like this. A lot of these companies like Target and, states like North Carolina that are changing the laws
right.
For transgender people. In a sense, like with this college, you're doing it to satisfy one group, but then you're ignoring the fact that there are people already there.
Right.
Their belief system and, looking at the historical part of the college being a same-sex college, that's kind of hard. I think that their approach should be, looking at the biggest picture of it.
The biggest,
right.
the larger picture.
Right, the larger picture.
Yeah.
Because it could hurt them.
In the long run, yeah.
It could hurt them.
It certainly could.
Right, and you can't call those people that don't agree with it ignorant, but it could hurt the ones that have been there, that are going there, that are sending their children there after they've already went.
Invested money and stuff
right.
like that. They put money into the university to have this change come about, or even the
right.
consideration of the change.
Right.
Because it's not done yet.
Right.
It's just they're in the process of lining themselves up with what some other universities are already doing.
Right. Because then I had a conversation and looking at it, because I was reading a story about some young ladies who they couldn't join the Alpha Phi Alpha, so they started their own organization. So
right.
What if these sororities just started opening it up to transgender? Like, where do you draw the line?
Sure.
Are you just going to continue to open it up? If the history of the school is this is an all young ladies school, and I understand that America is in a place where people can identify with whatever they
right.
want to.
And that's one of the things that I was gonna point to, because I'm not even looking at this, and I have what I consider to be, as a Christian, a worldview, meaning the way that there's a way that I look at things, and and the way that I look at things is biblically based, and I look at things through the lens of my belief, which is Christianity. That's how I view things.
Right.
But I'm also intelligent enough and able to just look at something with a non-biased eye. So I'm really not thinking about the religious aspect of it at the moment, because ultimately that's where my belief is, and that's ultimately where my answer is going to come from. But I'm stepping back for a second and just looking at it from the perspective of, listen, this is a single-sex school.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's a university that's put in place, and that was established for females. Now, it would be different if, in my opinion, would kind of change if they were considering making the school co-ed.
Right.
That would be different, because my belief is, and this is my personal opinion, like it, love it, or leave it, but this the way that I view it is simple. If you are transgender, and that's between you and Jesus, but if you are transgender, why not apply to a co-ed school where it doesn't matter?
Exactly.
Because there it really doesn't matter. You can identify with whatever you want to identify because there's the existence of both males and females in the school. So if you are the male that identifies as a female, or if you're the female that identifies as the male, so be it.
Right.
You don't have to change the policy, and you don't have to change the structure and the infrastructure of a school just because of a personal agenda. And I kind of view some of the fights, not all, but I view some of the fights as fights that are just kind of being picked for the sake of picking. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, and this is no disrespect to women that play football or wrestle or anything like that, but normally you didn't have that. You know, before that was unheard of, to have a female playing on a male's football team because of the possibility of the person being hurt. But eventually it was done. It's been done in a couple high schools across America. The same thing on the collegiate level with people wrestling. So my question then is, and let me know how you feel on this, but my thing is, why is it that has to be the angle that's picked? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if that's your choice, then it's your choice.
Right.
But just go somewhere where it doesn't matter. Yeah. As opposed to, that's like, what I mean, are you going to have females who identify as males trying to go to Morehouse? Exactly. Is that the ultimate goal? Right. And I don't think that in and of itself is the right approach. I think that if you are a female who identifies as a male, then you go to a co-ed university. Right. And you don't have to change policy that way. I mean, that's just how I feel.
Yeah, and then my question is, how do you monitor that? Because there's some people that they believe that, they are male, or they believe that they're female.
Sure.
Even though they were born a certain way.
That's fine.
Or there are men out there that just cross-dress because they like to do it.
Right.
Now, that don't mean that they're going to, take the pills and get the surgery and do all this, but, what is that definition of this is what I identify? Because there have been stories out there, especially like with the bathroom stores. There have been stories out there of just men going in, taking advantage of a law that was passed or a rule that was passed. So
I actually saw a couple of posts in that same line of thinking. I saw a couple of posts where females, and I don't know if they were going to this jokes or not, but it was just women that went into the men's stalls and went into at the urinals, and they took pictures and posted them, and said, and the caption was, "See what your law has done," or something like that. And it was like, well, you just really just doing it to be facetious at this point. But if somebody was serious and they wanted to take that angle, they actually could.
Right. And nowadays, you can't put anything past anybody. So when you open Pandora's box or something, then it's like when something happens, you can't blame the person. In a sense, you can still blame the person, but when you open that box, this is what you're allowing. Yeah. So it's like you said, if it's a transgender person, why don't they just go to a co-ed school and let history be history? Just like
everybody's cool at that point, because it doesn't impact the school or their policy, and it doesn't impact the person who's chosen that life for themselves. Everybody at the end of the day is happy. It's a win-win, and that's kind of what you always want to go for, And I have this conversation with people all the time. You want to have a win-win situation at the end. Right. There's no reason why somebody should have to lose or sacrifice in a situation in a husband and wife relationship, in a parent-child. Child ain't always going to win, but but you can at least make it favorable. You know what I mean? Try to work it out. But and I think that is one of that is probably the biggest piece that I had with it was, hey, why try to change the policy? Right. There's no need to change the policy on that. So different people have different things. I read a couple of statements and stuff by people who were blogging about it and put comments on the story itself. Just general concerns were coming up, things like locker usage, dorm assignments. Something as simple as dorm assignments now. That either dorms have to be either reassigned or potentially building new ones, because there could be kickback. Not to say that there would be, but these are the long-term things that you have to think about when you make these types of decisions. So I just found that piece to be kind of interesting. We'll keep on top of the story just to see where it goes, but I think that if it goes in line with some of the other universities that have done the same thing, the change will probably be made. I can't imagine why They wouldn't. I mean, there's reasons on both sides for people to think about why they should, why they shouldn't. But I really think that it's going. From the article, it looks like it's going in the direction of, well, this is what we want to do to make sure that we line up, because they want to stay competitive, and that's the other piece of it too. If all these other colleges are doing it, and we're the only one that's not,
how can we get more money?
How can we get more money? How can we get more, into our school? So, just an interesting piece, a little tidbit, something that we found that was bouncing around in the news. So, there's another story that I wanted to hit and cover for us real quick. We had the ACS question of the week, which I thought was pretty good. There was a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah.
A lot of people weighed in on the question, and it was an interesting question, and it was definitely interesting feedback that we got from a lot of the fans. So, for those who follow us on social media, on Facebook, we actually have the After Church Radio Show fan page. So once a week, we throw a question out there to kind of get engage exactly what our fans are thinking and what their thought process is as it relates to the topics that we have at hand. So this week's question, the ACS question of the week was: many couples who look to protect their premarital assets enter into their marriages with premarital agreements. Do you believe Christian couples should have prenuptial agreements? We got a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
And it was a ratio of 2 to 1. 2 being, most people said no, that shouldn't be necessary.
Right.
But there were plenty of people,
yeah,
and pretty born again, blood washed believers that was like
baptized.
Yes, it's up to the couple whether or not they should have.
I like that one comment.
A prenuptial agreement. So let's see. We had two opposing comments, which is always great, because I like when it gets really I like when it gets a little heated in the box. So Althea, one of our listeners, says yes. She's for it. She says yes. If you have substantial assets, a prenuptial agreement has nothing to do with your commitment to one another. It's an individual. If an individual accumulates money, basically she said, if an individual accumulates money afterwards, that's considered joint. But anything you got before, Sister Althea is like, that's mine.
Right.
that belongs to me.
Right,
so,
right.
And then we have Marriage Works, which is Tyrene and Ron. Shout out to them for Marriage Works and the work that they're doing to help build marriages. But they gave the holy response, and this is the response that I expected, because a lot of believers feel this way. This is the response they gave. We believe that God's design for marriage does not put predetermined stipulations before entering the marriage. While I understand that the prenup would protect assets, everything that you bring to the marriage belongs to both parties moving forward. The idea is that you prayed for this person and you'll be together forever, which leaves no room for a prenup. Now, a few people liked it. We had one of our other listeners, Shawana, said totally agree with this. So I mean, the believers they came through.
Yeah. It's good to see the dynamic.
Now everybody in here believer.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see. Now I'm gonna reserve my comment to the end, but I think that
I'll let you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because and it ties into something else we'll talk about a little later on. But when you have that cash,
right?
I mean, let's talk about this now,
right.
because I'm not phony. I'm not phony. But if you got if when I meet you, I love you, you good. We dating, we doing all this other stuff, and I'm worth $3.5 billion, right? Now you
coming with a bag.
You coming through with 65, 30, what I mean, maybe 120K. If that's how you coming through right now. Now we meet.
Yeah.
I'm worth $3.5 billion. So now based upon Tyrene and Ron, now we worth $3.5 billion plus 30K. So I mean, it's kind of like, well,
right. It's one of those things because you got to think about
I got to go see Jesus.
Right,
I'll be
right.
back.
You got to think about that conversation as a Christian man going to a Christian woman and saying, yeah, it's something we need to talk about.
Right.
But see, this is my belief. I believe you got to know the person you're about. First of all, you got to know yourself, but you got to know the person that you're marrying. I mean, the ideal answer for Christians is, no, you shouldn't get a prenup. But the reality is that Christian goes out the window when y'all get divorced, and you like, hold on, this not the Christian that I married. Oh,
right.
This person is completely different. So I look at it more from a natural aspect of it. I believe if it's something that you want to do, then do it, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like the will. People don't like to get wills because they think, oh, if I get a will, it's going to say that I'm dying. No, that's not saying that.
No, you're just preparing for the time.
You're just preparing for the time that you're leaving. You're preparing for your family and any assets that you may have. I think a prenup agreement is like that. I'm not saying that we're going to get divorced.
Right.
But in the event that something were to happen, like my goal is, if I'm marrying you, my goal is to share all this wealth with you.
Right.
And not everybody can. I mean, people give vows, but not everybody can
keep them. Yeah. Some people can't keep them.
If you constantly getting cheated on, or if you constantly getting physically abused, you're gonna want to get out of that.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, you being the abusee came in with
$30K.
20. Well, I'm gonna flip it, because if you were the one getting abused and you came in with $20 million,
yeah, you leaving with $20 million.
You saved, filled with the Holy Ghost, but you still want a divorce because your husband was beating you.
Right.
Are you okay?
We're paying him 10.
We're giving him 10, because that's what it boils down to. Y'all came in together, y'all married together, and now it ain't work out the way you thought it. Yeah. But you ain't want to get a prenup because, you got to think of it like that. We can't be so saved that, oh my God. And I'm not taking away from anybody's opinion. So
it's nothing in the Bible about a prenup.
Right.
That's not in there.
It just says,
It says the two to become one, though. Right. That's in there.
Right.
And that's why a man would leave his mother and father and cleave.
Right.
That word cleave. Hold on to it. You got to hold on.
Right. You got to hold on. But I personally don't. I think it's okay. Because, you at the end of the day, people,
right?
But you may not know them when that judge like, how much do you want?
Right.
You start thinking about all the pain and suffering and all the stuff that you went through.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what, Judge? I want 75%. I'm like,
hold on now. You only showed up with $5.
Right. So that's my thought process.
Okay. All right. So here we go. I'm about to weigh in. I'm about to weigh in. So I'll do it this way. Listen, I understand 100% what it means to become one. I understand what it means to devote yourself to another person. Call me a little jaded. People that know me personally, and it's no secret of mine. I've remarried. So I understand what it's like to go through the hardship of going through separation and divorce as well. Now, if I showed up to the table with $3.5 billion and you show up to the table and I'm either taking you out your mama's house and you never worked before, or you got your 9 to 5 and you doing your thing, or let's say you got your 2.5 billion yourself. Right, so we both come to the table smashing. We got. It's just money for days.
Right.
I'm gonna have a problem if you decide you want to go, or this relationship doesn't want to work out for some reason.
Right.
I'm gonna have a problem with cutting a check. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say.
Right.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't understand the thing. The whole thought process behind it. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't know what the word says, because I does.
Right.
I do rather. But what I am saying is this. God ain't through with me yet, and I need prayer as far as that would be concerned, because it would just be difficult to do. The judge would literally have to say that's what you have to do for me to do that, and comply. But I know that the right thing, and I'll go on record as saying I know that the right thing to do is to come into it with the attitude and the belief and the commitment that come hell or high water, come what may, you know, we're going to make it, we're going to cut through all of it, and we're going to be together.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. That's the way it's supposed to be. And at the end of the day, even though I admit that I would have a hard time doing it, I can honestly say that I would still do it.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, my answer is, I don't think that a prenup should be in place.
Okay.
Because I do believe that marriage should last forever. People make mistakes. People make bad decisions, and those are the reasons why marriages don't, or they lack commitment, and those are the reasons why marriages don't last forever in a lot of instances. But I do believe that you should not have a prenup in place.
Okay.
But it would be very hard for me to. I would be kicking and screaming the entire time, and I might write a check and then rip it up and then write another, because it would be hard for me to do.
I'm like, you sure she get that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be like, she ain't do that. She ain't show up with nothing, Judge. I would try. I honestly would try. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I know what the word says, so I would go. So I have to agree. Shout out to Sister Althea, though, because she kept it real. Because she was like, listen, it's shit, one person at a time. They got their own money. Whatever they make after that is theirs. So I get that, and I totally understand that. But my answer is no, I don't think it should be necessary.
We just had a question from Keeney, 1987, new viewer. Thank you for tuning in to the After Church Show with Greg and Friends.
Thanks, Keeney.
Just asked, was this an open session? You can comment. We do,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm watching our Periscope, but this is just one of those questions that we have. If you follow our fan page, the After Church Radio Show fan page, that Greg was speaking of earlier, we post a poll question every week, and this was just one of the ones that we decided to ask because it's a very interesting topic, and like you said,
good to see how believers think.
Right, and there were Christians that were answering, saying yes, it's okay to get a prenup. There were some that said no, you follow by the word. Me and Greg just gave our perspectives. He said no prenup. I said I think it's fine to protect yourself. I'm looking at it more in the natural sense, but you can definitely comment, and you can also follow us on the page and go comment on there as well.
Yeah.
The poll is still up.
It's definitely up. You can still contribute and leave a comment if you want to, and we'll actually read the comment as long as we're still working on that topic. And also to our new listeners, go to our webpage, www.theafterchurchshow.com. You get all of our social media information there, and you can follow us through those various different channels. We're going to take a break at this point. It's almost the top of the hour, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have some more topics to discuss, a couple more things that we need to go over. But just keep it locked to WXSL Street Legal Radio. You're tuned into the After Church Show with Greg and Friends. I'm your host, GB, and on my right is my man, Brother Massey. So we're holding it down, doing our thing. Follow us on Periscope. Follow us on Ustream. Stay tuned. Stay locked. We'll be right back. We've been talking about topics like we normally do, going in on different things, and we have another story that was kind of interesting. Massey, you found an article on a woman who was a blogger who basically got more than she got what she prayed for, but it came in a way that she wasn't expecting. You want to tell everybody about that?
Yeah. So there's a Christian blogger. Her name is Gay Clark. She prayed to God to send her daughter Anna a godly, kind husband, and she is I'll say that she's a white Christian blogger, and she was praying to God.
Mm-hmm. She lives in Georgia, so
she lives in Georgia.
Southern white Christian.
Well, God gave her what she prayed for. God sent her daughter Anna a godly man who happened to be a black man, dreadlocks and all, and so she wrote this blog to say, I didn't expect God to do this, the way that, we have a perception of when we pray what God is going to give us.
Sure.
And you were saying that, and in the story it shows that when she went out and said this, and she was just being open, she got backlash for it. Now, I think it's an incredible story for God to show you yourself.
Sure.
Because
absolutely.
Here you go, you're praying for your daughter to have a godly man, and I'm assuming from her writing the blog it was, a white man.
Mm-hmm.
Or, so
probably so, because she said that he wasn't what she expected.
Right.
So she could have been talking about his dreads.
Right. You couldn't even hold it.
Yeah, I couldn't keep it straight.
But what I like is that she came out and she admitted it, and she's gotten backlash from it Yeah. And I just think, that's just sad because she's not saying she's a racist. I'm not looking at her like a racist, and I'm pro-black and all that. But she's just, and it's sad because when a person is vulnerable and they can come out and admit something,
right?
And people always say, people keep it real, keep it real.
Keep it real. Right.
And she's keeping it real. She's saying, look, this is not, originally I felt a certain type of way because I prayed for one thing and God gave me what I prayed for, but not in the way that I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. And to get backlash from it, I thought it was an incredible story.
Yeah.
So that's just.
It definitely was a good article, and this was on New York Daily News actually. Yep. Where this article was, and Gay Clark, Southern woman, some of the things that probably alarmed people because she was very candid with the way that she spoke, and I think that may have set some people on fire with the way that she spoke because she's quoted as saying in the piece that when God sends your white daughter a black husband, even though she's open-minded and she asks the Lord for a godly, kind, a great dad and a good provider, she said, and I quote, hadn't counted on God sending an African American with dreads named Glenn. Right. Now, overly sensitive people, because some people, as soon as you say black, they say what? You know what I mean? As soon as you
Black Lives Matter. Like, what?
Right. It's like,
what are you talking about? Right.
All she was doing, she's speaking just as a person to say, and I read the whole thing. I really think that this was, and it's unfortunate that she had the article taken down, her blog taken down, because people were sending mean, vicious tweets, or not tweets rather, but messages to her in response to the story. And I think that it's an unfortunate circumstance because this was really an opportunity, when you think about it, to see how impactful God can be to a person to the point where he completely changes their entire perspective on another race. And she basically said that, and I'm surmising everything, but that's what she said. She said, I prayed, like you said, I prayed for something, and I got what I asked for. It just didn't come the way that I expected it to come. Right. Now, what believer out there has not encountered that in their walk of faith?
Of course, all
of us should have. At some point, it's like, look, God, you didn't ask God for something, you done prayed about something, and the need gets met, but it may not come the way that you think that it should come. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that God's not who He says He is? Right. Absolutely not. Exactly. It just means that you're not God, and you can't dictate how something comes. And I thought it was really, really sad the way people responded, because as we were saying and talking about this, whenever we open ourselves up and whenever we talk as believers, as Christians, we're supposed to have an environment where we can come and be real with each other, talk to each other, and just completely bear it all, and say, listen, I started off this way, but I'm not that way. I've realized the fault of my ways, and God used the situation to show me that there's a different way of thinking, a different way of being. We should have applauded and celebrated that. You know what I'm saying? In every single solitary way. And she's posted before, because I kept digging. I was like, well, what's wrong? And there was another post that she did. She did a post where she was a little insensitive yet again, and it kind of was the same thing, but she had to understand another person's perspective, and by meeting another person, it helped her to gain a greater and larger perspective. And I look at this in reverse because we're very quick to, and let's just be frank, we're very quick to sometimes as African Americans or people of color to vilify or vilify people who talk about race or say things about race. But think about this: if you have never been around another race before, or if you don't interact with them directly because of where you live and how you grow up, when you finally get the opportunity to do so, it's gonna be like a child walking into a store experiencing something you've never experienced before. Right. Flip it. If you grew up in the inner city and the only time you really saw someone who wasn't black was if it was your teacher or if it was the mailman or the cop, you don't understand what it's like to be friends with somebody of another race. Right. You really don't. But when you go to college or if you go away into service, a lot of times that's where you meet people of other races for the first time, and you get to know them on personal levels, and you shed these ignorances that you have about yourself, and you get to shed all of that. So I look at this as a middle-aged white female who probably didn't have, based upon her demographic, a lot of black friends or people that she associated with that were black.
Right.
So for this to happen to her, it was like it was eye-opening, and I applaud her for writing the blog and for being bold enough. And it's unfortunate they had to take it down, so you can't see the whole thing. But if you go on, if you search her and look on NewYorkDailyNews.com, you'll find the article, and it was pretty interesting. It was definitely something that I believe we could benefit from, as opposed to something that we couldn't benefit from. So, but anyway, you got what you got for us this week, man? Let's get them with the Massey's Minute. What you got for the folks today?
Sure. So I just wanted to talk about, the importance of sacrifice in your marriage. It's very important. A lot of people say a marriage is 50-50, and it's not. You have to go all in. You can't give 50% and think that's going to work. So you have to get to a point where sacrifice is important to you. And if you see that your spouse is want to do a business, or they part of they want to do something, they want to dream big, there's sacrifice that comes with that. There's times that are going to be missed, days where you won't be able to spend as much time and talk together. There are times when, as the man, you want to put your foot down on things, and you got to take a step back and say, no, this is her God-given dream, and vice versa. If this is his God-given dream, God-given talent, you just got to sacrifice. The Bible says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Mm-hmm.
Christ sacrificed himself for the church. So husbands, that's your role. You have to step in that role and sacrifice for your spouse. You have to support each other. You have to believe in each other. As well as you have to, if you see your spouse go down the wrong end, in a sense, where it may be something that they're passionate about, but you see that, or God is giving you the vision to say, like, no, don't go down this way, go down that way. Both of you have to make a sacrifice. As men, it's so easy to say, well, God put me in charge, so when I say go. But sometimes, Kevin Hart said it best. Men do dumb stuff.
Indeed. Absolutely.
We think about dumb stuff, so, I'll be the first to admit it. I've done a lot of dumb things.
Hey, man, you're not the only one, and you're not the last one, trust me.
Right, so keep in mind, with growth comes pain. And what I mean by that, with growth comes pain, comes sacrifice. So start looking at yourself, start supporting your spouse or who you're with, and understand that whatever sacrifices that have to be made, there's a reward at the end of that. Mm-hmm. So if you have to go to meetings and you have to, I'm not saying, also to the person that's so busy, you have to sacrifice the time too.
Sure.
I can remember countless stories of reading children and spouses to say, you just work too much. And in the person's mind, like,
Dad's always at work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I read, real quick, I'm almost finished. I read a story about a CEO, millionaire, worth millions of dollars. And his daughter wrote him a letter about how, like, she just missed him in her teenage years. She wrote the letter at like 16. This man quit his job and became a greeter at Walmart. He said it's not enough.
He had millions of dollars, so he had space to do
that. Right. I'm just saying, right. He did. But the fact is, he saw that it was more important for him to spend time with his daughter than to continue down that path. So for that busy person, I'm not saying stop grinding. I'm saying look at an alternative sacrifice if you see that the person you're with is also sacrificing time to not spend that time with you. So just keep the sacrifice and the love and the communication and all that work out for you. So that's my man.
Good, man. Good stuff. Sacrifice is definitely important in the confines of a marriage, so definitely agree with you on that. If you are married and if you are in the midst of thinking about getting married, understand that sacrifice is a part of it. If you're not willing to do that, then you probably should reconsider what your choices are. To be quite honest, because it's a necessary aspect for anyone that is thinking about it. Excellent point, bro. Excellent point. So let's talk about the capital punishment. So I had read an article about capital punishment, and what I'm talking about with that is the death penalty.
Okay.
I'm not talking about spanking, because some people look at that as
no.
That's corporal punishment, though, isn't it? Something like that. But yeah, capital punishment. Topic came up as a topic of conversation, and the thoughts on that are a lot of people, and it's kind of split 50-50. A lot of people believe that capital punishment should be in existence, and that's a lot of born again, blood washed believers believe that capital punishment should be in existence. That people should get the death penalty for crimes that they commit, and that they should be held accountable, what they call to the fullest extent of the law, based upon the nature of the infraction of the law that has been broken. Then you have a vast majority as well of Christians who believe that the death penalty should not be used when it comes to someone paying for the crimes that they've committed. They don't believe that we have the right to take another person's life because we did not create that life. So what are your feelings on capital punishment? Do you think that it should be something that's used? You know, should we use the electric chair? Should we use lethal injection? Because some people they feel as though things like electrocution is just too harsh. But if you hit them in the vein with something to make them die, that's okay. So how do you feel about that?
Because it's the same thing.
It's in the end of the day, you still wind up dead.
Right.
But what thoughts on that, man? What do you think about that?
Let's just get back to the old firing squad. So now I'm just
Would you like a cigarette, sir? And a blindfold.
Right. So you don't see who's about to hit you.
Yeah, well, it's probably better that way. If you think about it,
just put it right there on the Maduma album. No, on a serious note,
oh man,
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the death penalty because I'm one of those people, and you can call me a hypocrite. I don't support abortion, but I'm for the death penalty because it's like, and I know that sounds backwards, but again, that's just my feeling, my personal opinion. But I feel like this: the death penalty is for people that do such horrible crimes that, stand on this earth, like, they don't want them to have any opportunity to get out. Like, you have done such a horrendous crime. Yeah. And some people get it right. Heinous, yeah. So it's like, if you look at depending on what somebody does to me, I think that's fine. The electric chair, no, that's we got to get rid of. I think lethal injection is fine. I mean, I'm sure we've come up with enough lethal
There's
things.
There's plenty of ways to scare people into dying, or just make them die.
Yeah. However you need to do it, but
at least it's not like medieval times, because that was setting people on fire on a stake, chopping off their head.
The head was probably quicker.
The head chop was probably real quick though.
Yeah.
In case it didn't work the first time though, that would be the bad part.
Yeah, I'm sure that's happened.
When they were up, you gotta do it again.
Execution was like, went the wrong angle.
Sorry about that, buddy.
Yeah, I know your neck is hurting and bleeding right now. But, don't worry, we gonna get this pain right.
We'll get it clean the next time.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I think it is necessary to the extent that if somebody is doing such heinous things to people, they're killing children. They don't. In my book, they don't deserve to die. No, I'm not God. I'm not trying to be God. And then I look at it from another aspect. And I would have to research this on because it's different for different states. How much it costs to put somebody in jail for a lifetime. There are people getting double and triple lifetime sentences.
Sure. Well, that's another main point of contention that people have is because if you don't put these people to death and you can't release them out to the street, then John Q. Public has to pay for this guy to sit however many thousands of dollars that is over the course of however many years for this person to slowly, eventually, at some point, pass away.
Right. And with overcrowded jails, with all these people in jail,
yeah.
we are kicking out a lot.
It's a lot of money being spent.
Money. And then the ironic thing about death row is that there's people that's been on death row for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
My question is,
that ain't death row.
Why does that take so long?
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
Death row, you're guilty. Next month.
I think death row. If you're gonna have it, death row should probably be like 14 days.
Yeah.
Just so you know. You know, like it's not you don't have a lot of time once you get here.
Go write all your wrongs, write your letters,
Yeah.
call. You got to call. They should get unlimited calls at that point.
Why not?
14 days. Hey man, call when you need to.
Yeah, talk it up, man.
You ain't gonna be talking no more.
I mean, call who you want to call, man. I mean,
get your last mailing.
What you want? You want to call Lithuania? Go ahead, bro.
Right.
Call over there.
I want to know, like, what are some of the last meals? Because you know they say you get a last meal. Like, what is that last meal? Are you getting that? Maryland crab cake? Are you getting that Philly cheesesteak?
Probably. I mean, why not? Though?
That half and half. Give me a half and half.
Yeah, chicken box and a half and half.
Let me just go out with
You
know what I'm saying? Sade, get that half and
half.
half. Get one of them Sade donuts. You know.
Oh man! But I mean, seriously
gosh,
though, if people base their opinions on, and some people base their opinions on scripture. So, there are scriptures that talk about an eye for an eye. That's in Exodus. That's Old Testament. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But then people who are opposed to it say things like what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5. He talked about that we're supposed to love our enemies. In Romans it says that Romans 12 it says that vengeance is mine. So people say that there is ultimately on one side there is ultimately no justification for us to shorten the life of somebody because we didn't give them life. We don't know what their purpose is, and we can't say because they went behind bars that their purpose isn't going to be served because you never know.
True.
Your purpose, as I was told by a colleague in the ministry who's gone on to glory now, his name is Reverend Wilson, but he said that people don't die until, God doesn't call them home until their purpose has been fulfilled. We had a conversation one time about like why babies die, and I was really that's always a struggle for me, like why little kids and babies have to pass. But when their purpose has come to a close, then it really, when you look at it that way, you can't really put years on that. It's all about the purpose itself. So if somebody gets thrown in jail, we can't say they don't have purpose and they don't have a reason for being here. But I do find it challenging. Now, my beliefs are, honestly, that we should not have the death penalty. That's how I feel about it. But I can also say honestly and truly that there are people who have done certain crimes and things in this world that I believe deserve it. But that's my flesh. That's not what God would have me to do. It's not my right to take a life that He created.
Right.
But I can certainly understand why somebody would want somebody dead based off what they did.
And I think, to most people, and I'm not saying you, to most people, it don't really. It really doesn't. Excuse me. You really won't see that affect you until it comes knocking on your door. Because I can tell you now, if somebody mess with mine, you killed my child,
I'm gonna give you the death penalty.
I'm gonna give you the death penalty. It ain't gonna be oh God gonna get the glory from this, and let the police and let the system work. No, we not have this. That's not that kind of conversation. I'm sorry for the church mothers that are listening. But
judge, jury, and execution same day.
But until it comes on your door, and that's right, we don't have a right to take a life. And through somebody's story, God can get the glory from that. So you never know, but some people just deserve. Unfortunately, they do. Like anybody that kills a child, to me.
Yeah, man. It's certain things where you just be like,
right?
It's hard, and I'm honest about that in every way. It's not that I don't pray for people. It's not that I don't ask for forgiveness, but it's certain things that people do, and it's certain things that have happened, man. And I just be like, man, it's so hard for me to forgive right now.
Right.
It's so hard for me to pray for this person that just did what they just did. It's tough. So I mean, but that's all about what we do here. That's about keeping it real and talking about stuff that's real in our lives, because it would be tough. It would be tough. But Capital punishment, man. It's one of those things where it's really, it's up to the people because we vote on things like this.
Mm-hmm.
But whether you agree with it or not, that's always interesting to see whether people agree with it or not. So on a lighter note, we found another story. This is a story that we found where there was an elderly woman who, and this story we actually found on ChristianToday.com. There was an elderly woman who gave her place in line for a liver transplant to another young woman who was in need of a liver herself. So this is an awesome story. The story actually exemplifies what you will find in the Bible of John 15:13, where Jesus says that greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friend. I found this story to be amazing. This 69-year-old grandmother, her name is Brenda Jones. She's from Dallas, Texas. She was in place to receive a liver. So her liver was in stages of shutting down, etc. She needed a liver herself. And then there was a woman who I believe was 23, at 23 years old. Her name was Abigail Flores, and she came to the hospital that day in desperate need of a liver transplant. She actually was flown from her wedding, I believe it was, to the hospital because of the complications that she was having with her liver. And they gave her like a couple of days. This all they gave her. They said if she doesn't get a liver in a couple of days, then she's going to die. So imagine the position that she was in. Imagine the strife that she was feeling in her predicament. And, Miss Jones, Brenda Jones, who was supposed to get her the liver, and the liver was there. So it was actually her turn.
Right.
She met with her doctors and her team, and she said that this other young lady could have the liver. So because she found out that it was compatible, she found out that it will work for her. Somehow she got the story, and she told them, go ahead and give it to her. And she sacrificed and put this person in front of her. Amazing story. But here's the beautiful thing about God and what God actually does. Like 2 days later, after she made this decision to give Miss Flores the liver that was in place for her, another liver was donated that was the exact match as the other one. So they both wound up getting their liver transplants done in the same hospital, like a day or so apart, and they put them in rooms right beside each other so they could recover. Right. I think that this was an amazing story. This lady did not know her. She knew nothing about her. She found out about her story, found out that she was in need, and she said, "Go ahead."
That's just when I read the story initially, and then I just think about that, that everything was the exact match. Sometimes I want to ask people that don't believe in God, how can you not believe in God when you read a story like that?
Right.
First of all, the sacrifice of this older woman, 69 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We're only promised,
3 score and 10.
3 score and 10.
To 70. She right there.
She
in the upper room.
Right. right. So she's right there, and for her to give that sacrifice and say, you know what, there's a young lady who has, and that's part of kind of what she said. She said, I'm this old, but she has a whole life ahead of her.
Right.
To sacrifice that for a stranger, and not only that, for the liver to be. Do you know the odds of that?
Right. How hard it is to get a matching organ.
Right. Because that's that, and then for another liver to come in and be still the exact same match. That's nothing but God. That was her test for God to bless her, because she still wound up getting the liver, and both of them got new livers. And I just think that is a tremendous story of God's love that has to be practiced more and more just within the church. I mean, within humanity, of course, but if we're Christians and we're so-called, quote-unquote, God's people, we got to make those sacrifices. I mean, I think about my cousin who donated. She is, I don't know how old she is. She would kill me but she's around like 23, 24 right now. And one of her friends needed a kidney. Mm-hmm. And she's young. And she said, okay. They were real close friends.
Mm-hmm.
So and I asked her, I said, well, you know, how did you feel? What made you do that decision? And she was basically like, you know, this is my decision.
Yeah.
So I told my parents whether they wanted me to do it or not. This was my decision.
Something she decided to do.
He needed a kidney. I had an extra kidney, and I'm like, we need to display more acts of love to spread God's word like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's an amazing story. It touched me in a mighty way. And then when you see the picture of the lady, I mean, this lady Abigail is a young, appears to be a Hispanic lady, and Brenda Jones is an older white woman, and they show a picture of them together. I'm assuming this is after the surgeries had been performed, and it's just an amazing testament to just love for somebody else when it's not necessary. And Brenda says she just thanks God for Abigail says she thanks God for Brenda every day, because now she looks at it as she's got a life that she can live. She'll be able to have kids with her husband. There were so many things that had crossed this young woman's mind at age 23 that she would not be able to do. You know, and then a whole nother aspect of that, and there's so many things that you can extract from this one little story, but just think about the fact that she thought her life was going to end, and then out of the blue, somebody blessed you in a situation like that, and it's just astounding, man. It really is.
Yeah, that's nothing but God. Real quick, I just want to read a quote from Brenda Jones. She said, "In my heart, I wouldn't have been able to live with the liver if I had let this little girl die."
Wow.
And
that's compassion.
That's what God calls to do.
It's the fruits of the Spirit. It's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, so that's incredible, man.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Touching.
Yeah,
we tough.
Yeah.
We tough. Ain't gonna be no. Yeah, we tough. That's what my allergies started to mess with me.
A little dusty.
So we're going to take one last break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. But stay locked, stay tuned to WXSL Street Legal Radio, www.streetlegalradio.com. We'll be back with some more news stories, and we'll also be back with the final thoughts of the day. Stay tuned to topics that we talked about today. We hope that you enjoyed the show, because we definitely enjoy talking and engaging with you as we do every week. So Chris, just real quick before we get off the air, I just want to talk about the deceptiveness of being wealthy and greedy. So, what do you think about this? That you know the Bible story, and I think it's in Matthew chapter 10, if I'm not mistaken, where Jesus is talking to the rich young ruler, and he basically makes the statement that it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. So it made me think, made me have a thought. Like, what would you be willing, and we talked about this earlier when we talked about like prenups and all this other stuff.
Right.
But if you were asked to give up all your possessions for Jesus, bro, could you do it?
That's a good question.
Right now, like 1 minute from like Jesus walking the door, hey,
bro,
follow me, like he did with his disciples. Just drop it all, come with me. Could you do it?
I would say right now, I can.
You can? Okay.
I would say I'm mature enough in my walk now where I can say, if God wanted me to give up everything I had to follow Him, to do whatever it is He wanted me to do, I could. Now in my 20s, even when I was like 25, like 7 years ago, because I'm only 32, no, I couldn't do it.
Wasn't ready.
But now I can, because I understand, my time, our time, I would say, is running out. And I look at the bigger picture of what God is trying to do and where God is trying to take everybody.
Sure.
And it's like, the scripture that says you can only serve, you can't serve two masters.
Right. Another good scripture.
Right. Love God, hate one and love the other. So it's like, even with that scripture, and when he told the rich young ruler, and he was asking him, like, I did all this, everything you just said. He was like, all right, just give up.
I honored my parents. I did everything.
I did everything. And,
but that money.
But I don't know if I can give, because you got to think, like, you can't take the money with you.
I know.
But God is always with you. That means the money is always there. So if God was just like, give up all your stuff, I would have to say yes.
Yeah.
And I believe I'm at the point where I can really do that. And I ain't trying to be super safe. Anybody else, you don't have to church, so
Like he lying because he want to have.
Because I'm far from perfect. But I know me, and I know what I would do for God. And there's not anything at this point in my life that I would not do for the Heavenly Father.
Okay, that's good, man. My sentiments actually echo yours. I'm not gonna lie. At different stages in my life, I'd be like, no, I can't do that. There's no way. Like somebody, God.
Yes, I can give you 5, but I can't give you 100 right now. My bill's looking low.
You're like, I need you to drop everything, and I couldn't do it. It wouldn't have been possible for me then. But as I grew in Christ, I started to understand things a little differently. So I understand now that, and I've understood this for some time, actually, to be honest. It just would have been a difficult thing for me to do. But I know that it's, money comes and goes, and people tend to forget that. Money ebbs and flows.
Right.
1 minute you can have it, the next minute you might not have it, and guess what? It'll come back again. So if you put money on too high of a pedestal, you put riches and material wealth on too high of a pedestal, you're really not going to have a life that's healthy. Because in the end, like you said, you can't take none of that with you. So, note to all the misers and the stingy people out there, you can't take it with you.
Besides the guy that had the camera.
You took it
old boy. He had
old boy took the camera.
The heavenly camera. But real quick, you can't take none of it with you. And it's like, what is it worth? A lot of people say, oh, money is the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money. Because people will do anything for money. You got your high greedy people like your Bernie Madoffs that took all that money from people, didn't have a care that this people life savings, and then you have the lower people that don't have nothing, that like, look, I don't have nothing, so I'm gonna take from somebody. So it's like,
just like the people that like, and this burns me up, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent because we're not going to be on the air much longer, but when you give to somebody, like you see them out there struggling, like last week here in Baltimore, for our listeners, it was like 97 degrees last Sunday. I'm talking about, it was so hot that when you stood there to think, you started to sweat.
Yep.
So, I'm at a local convenience store, and I see 3 people outside. They were asking for, spare change, etc. I don't always come off a spare change. I'm not gonna lie about that, but I'll try to meet a need. So it was burning up hot. So I go in the store and I buy 4 waters, 1 for myself, 3 for these gentlemen that are outside. And when I come out, one of them, I gave it to him. He said, "Oh, brother, thank you, man. It's so hot." He drank like 3/4 of that water right while I was standing there.
Right.
So he was clearly thirsty. Now the other guy had asked me for money on the way in, and I didn't give him money, but I came out and gave him the water. Guess what he did? He put it by his foot and said, "All right, thanks." Burnt me up, man.
Oh yeah.
Burnt me up. But I was like, you know what? It's about my heart when I give it to them. It's not about me. It's about them. So I gave it to them. But anyway, I wouldn't have a problem giving up my wealth. I could give up all my possessions now, but I definitely couldn't have done that at an early age. It would have been too difficult to do. Yeah, spiritually more mature. But look, guys, I want to go ahead and we'll be signing off in just a minute. But I just wanted to give you my final thoughts for today's broadcast. So here are my final thoughts. Very simply, very plain. This is what I wanted to say. Quitters never win, and winners never quit. In James chapter 1, verse 12, the Bible says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive a crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." When I was watching the Olympics this week, and we were talking about, the 4x100 relay team, it reminded me of this truth about perseverance and not quitting. If you watched the race, you saw that they had some opposition initially. When they had the heats in the very beginning, the U.S. team wasn't able to complete. They actually dropped the baton. It was because the Brazilian team had veered over into their lane, and it caused for Allyson Felix to lose her hold of the baton. But that's not the amazing part. The amazing part was after everybody ran the heat and the U.S. team was standing around, Allyson reached over to, I believe her name is English Garner, and said, "Finish the race." And she told her, "Finish the race because we can protest only if we finish this race." So Allison picked up the baton, ran it to the anchor leg, gave it to the anchor leg, and they finished the race. They had the worst possible time that you can imagine because it took them forever to finish this heat. But here's the thing that really struck me. After they put in for the right to appeal, the Olympic Committee said, yes, there was interference. So you have to run, but guess what? You got to run by yourself later on tonight in the same lane, same race. And if your time allows for you to qualify, then you'll be able to be in the finals later on the next day. So they ran, and they ran an excellent time. They came in, I believe, it was second or third fastest time from all the heats of that day. But the beauty of it all is that because they challenged it, the perseverance that they had to pick up the baton even after it seemed impossible, and the perseverance that they had to run the race alone to qualify is what allowed for them to be on the big stage the next day. And on the next day, the U.S. women's team, the 4x100 team, ran the quickest time they've run in a long time. They came in first place by 3 whole strides. What's the moral of the story? What's the ACS Challenge of the Week? It's simple. Don't quit. Sometimes you have to persevere in the midst of a situation that seems as though it is over, just so you can see the victory at the end. Don't quit what God is telling you to do. Don't quit what you've been instructed to do by Him, regardless of the opposition you may see. Because when you do things for the Lord, guess what? You're victorious in the end. We hope that you've enjoyed this broadcast today. This has been the After Church Show with Greg and friends. I've been your host, GB. That's been my little brother, Brother Massey, and our our engineer, Sade, sitting over in the corner doing her thing. We thank you for tuning in today. We appreciate the fact that you listen to us and the fact that you love our show and are entertained by us. So we hope that we will see you next week, same time, same place, WXSL, Street Legal Radio, www.streetlegalradio.com. See you next week. Be blessed on your journey.